NC Pork, raising the bacon, raising the bar. Well, let's talk about this coaching carousel that is dominating a lot of the talk in ACC country, especially around Charlottesville and Raleigh, as the ACC has landed two excellent coaches, experienced head coaches for NC State and Virginia, as the Cavaliers on Friday announced the Ryan Odom hire a day after his Virginia Commonwealth team was bounced from the tournament. Odom is, of course, the son of former Sampson-era Cavalier assistant and Wake Forest, East Carolina, and South Carolina head coach Dave Odom, also Guilford College graduate. Like to work that one in there. And while NC State hasn't made their hiring official yet, it's well known that they are going to be hiring another former VCU head coach and current McNeese State head man and Clemson alumnus, Will Wade, as the new Wolfpack boss. Everybody in Wolfpack land is absolutely jubilant. They feel like they finally have their successor to Jim Valvano in that type of super coach type of status. There was a lot of talk this past season about the talent on the sidelines in the ACC of being down with so many folks retiring in recent years, most recently Tony Bennett at UVA. But it seems like the ACC coaching talent pool is restocking, not with first-time head coaches, though there are some of those, but with some experienced head coaches that will certainly come in and operate at a different level than maybe some of these guys who were getting first-time head jobs.
Yeah, Mike, think about it. You know, most of the successful coaches have been successful as head coaches somewhere else. You know, with Brad Brownell of Clemson, he was successful at UNC Wilmington, successful at Wright State. With Pat Kelsey, he was very successful most recently at College of Charleston, now had this amazing first-year splash at Louisville. Andy Enfield put Florida Gulf Coast on the map and then did very good things at Southern Cal before being hired. This was his first year at SMU. Kyle Smith, the first-year guy at Stanford, was a very successful coach at Washington State, which is a hard place to win. Tony Bennett's job prior to UVA was at Washington State, and it's one of the reasons that he caught the Cavaliers' eye. If you can win at Washington State, the saying goes, you can win just about anywhere. So Stanford feels really good, only the NIT in year one as an ACC member, but they feel really good about Kyle Smith's track record, not only at Washington State, but two other head coaching jobs prior to that. Jeff Capel of Pitt fell short of the NCAA tournament this year, but he did have success at VCU as a head coach. He did have an Elite Eight trip while the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. So those and other examples, and obviously the two of the new guys fit this description. Ryan Odom at now the head coach at Virginia, Will Wade, soon to be the head coach at NC State. These guys were not, taking somebody else's players, winning, and then getting a quick job in the Power Five. They have been proven at multiple levels and for multiple years now. I mean, Will Wade is only 42 years old, but he got his first head coaching job around the age of 30. So he was very successful. 2 strong seasons at Chattanooga in the Southern Conference, gets hired at VCU. 2 strong seasons, both NCAA tournament trips with the Rams in the Atlantic 10 Conference. LSU of the SEC notices that, hires him in 2017. He takes them to, there was the one COVID year where there was no tournament, but in the 4 years where there was a tournament, Will Wade took the LSU Tigers to the big dance in his second year there, and then his 4th and 5th year there, with that COVID year being in the middle. So that's a pretty good track record, right? 2 for 2 in big dance trips at VCU, 3 for 4, we'll call it, in big dance trips at LSU. Again, there was that weird COVID year. And then, of course, these last 2 seasons, Wade did not coach in 2022, 2023 because of the personal sanctions he got from the NCAA for the violations that he committed and the Tigers committed during his 5 years with the LSU program. But after being out that year dealing with sanctions, McNeese gives him another chance. And NCAA tournament first year, NCAA tournament second year. Regular season title first year, regular season title. Will Wade's conference record in the Southland Conference was 36-2 during the regular season. That's a 95% conference winning percentage. Now, obviously, you're not going to have those kind of numbers in the ACC, but Mike, just as a point of reference, whether you think about the outgoing Kevin Keats or Mark Gottfried before him or Herb Sendek or Sidney Lowe, all the way back, you know the most recent NC State head coach who had a winning conference record for his career, not just in a single season, but his entire tenure at NC State? It was Jim Valvano in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And even Jimmy V barely had more ACC wins than he had ACC losses. So that's a long, long time ago, 35 years now. Will Wade is the kind of guy whose track record was he won 78% of his conference games at VCU. He won 63% of his conference games at LSU. He won almost 80% of his conference games at Chattanooga. So if you can dominate your neighborhood, in one case, the Southeastern Conference, that's as good a sign as you will have for any coach. So, of course, Wolfpack fans are very excited about what Will Wade can do in Raleigh. Similar story with Ryan Odom. This is not a one-hit wonder. He was at UMBC. Most famously, he became the first coach of a 16 seed to beat a 1 seed. That was the UMBC team in 2018, beating number 1 seed Virginia and Tony Bennett. That was Ryan Odom's breakthrough on the national scene, at least at the Division I level. He had done great things for Lenore Ryan as a D2 head coach prior to that. After 5 good years at UMBC, Utah State hires him to coach out in the Mountain West. He has 2 good years there, including a big dance trip. VCU brings him back to the East Coast, and he has been a successful coach in both years with the Rams. NIT last year, NCAA tournament, and a regular season title and conference title, the double whammy this year. So UVA feels like it has a proven head coach. NC State feels like it has a proven head coach. And in both cases, they're going to be asked to live in this new world where it's not just X's and O's. It's not just relating to players and recruits and families. It's also cultivating boosters and cultivating name, image, likeness money. The job description of a head coach has changed, just as you as a former athletic director would know that the job description modern day of an athletic director has changed. So Will Wade at only 42 years old, I think Ryan Odom is maybe 50 years old. These are guys who, if successful, could be a part of a long-term resurgence for the Atlantic Coast Conference, along with some of those other proven head coaches that you and I listed. And the bottom line is they're all embracing the idea, meaning all these schools, that the ACC royally screwed up this past year. Oh. I mean, we've talked about it on our weekly college basketball show, Time Out, with Coach Kerry Keating and you and I. But for those who haven't been a part of all those shows, the bottom line is the ACC did not jump into the name, image, likeness world the way other leagues did. And sure enough, this is their worst season, arguably, of the last 45 years. You can't have the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 grabbing your players because they have better name, image, likeness opportunities. Whether you're Will Wade at State, Ryan Odom at UVA, or even guys like Hubert Davis returning to Carolina, you need to embrace this new world. I gave the example earlier this year where the Southeastern Conference plucked 10 ACC players and plugged them right into their various starting lineups. You know, Andrew Carr, starter at Kentucky, is formerly of Wake Forest. Miles Kelly, starter for the number 1 seed Auburn Tigers, formerly of Georgia Tech. And there's 8 or 9 other examples that fit that description. Proven commodity in the ACC, not some bench player that you discovered and you gave an opportunity in his blossom. No, guy who was already great, and the SEC threw a bunch of money at him and grabbed him for their coaches and their schools. The ACC did not pluck those same players in return from the SEC. Van Allen Lubin of UNC was probably the best SEC import that the Tar Heels got from Vanderbilt. He's a good player, but he was a part-time starter for most of this year for the Tar Heels. The SEC raided and devoured the ACC last summer and spring in the transfer portal, and the results on the court in this NCAA tournament and during the regular season are in part a byproduct of that off-season dominance. All these new coaches need to embrace that fact because their coaching acumen is only going to take them so far. They're going to need institutional support in the form of that revenue sharing, and they're going to need that third-party name, image, likeness money, even in this new world that we're entering, where some of that money is now coming from within the universities themselves.
It was our first show in March of Time Out that we reported that it was going to be Ryan Odom at Virginia. I mean, the insiders around the Commonwealth's flagship institution are ecstatic, and they're ecstatic because now you have a link back to that Ralph Sampson era. And though they didn't win a national championship, that's a magical time. That's the golden era of Virginia basketball. I spent 3 years on the UVA radio network, and those people love that area. For Dave Odom to be back in the fold in Charlottesville, and he's gonna be around there all the time with his son Ryan, who is a brilliant relationship guy. I mean, he is kind of a combination between Terry Holland, Pete Gillen, and Tony Bennett all rolled into one. Now that's a funny three-way combination I just put together right there. But Ryan's a great guy, and he's going to be so relatable. But he's all of those great things on a personal level, which everybody loves to see. But he's a great X's and O's coach. His former play-by-play guy at Virginia Commonwealth, Robbie Robinson, former UVA pitcher on the '95 championship baseball team, told me that he is among the best coaches that he's ever been around in X's and O's, maybe only usurped not by Shaka Smart, but by Will Wade, another former VCU head coach. So that's the thing. I mean, those guys are going to do what they need to do. And that's going to be something I think that as you look, as these coaching positions start to evolve and you start to see who's rising and who's falling, who has the stomach, and it really is that way, who has the stomach to go out and do what you just said that the coaches in the SEC were doing. Rick Barnes is going to do it. Nate Oates is going to do it. Bruce Pearl's going to do it. You know, the guy down at Florida, Golden, is going to do it. Who in the ACC is going to do that, and who is not? Who's going to stand on principles maybe going back 20, 30, 40, 50 years and try to make those work square peg, round hole in 2026 and forward? That's a real question. And, you know, you can have all the ideals in the world, but if you're not winning games and your team's not improving from week one until the end of the season, that's a real challenge. And that's why you're seeing some really quick triggers around college basketball right now. I've been surprised at a few of the moves, but, you know, we've not even talked about the new coach at Florida State. We've not talked about the new coach at Miami who came off the Duke sideline. It's going to be a fun year of basketball, and we're still not even done with this year's NCAA tournament. So, David, thank you for taking your time out for this special edition of the David Glenn Show during our Bacon and Basketball Month here on the North Carolina Sports Network, presented by NC Pork. For David Glenn, I'm Mike Waddell. We'll see you on Monday for another edition of Time Out. Until then, enjoy the games and stay safe. NC Pork, good for the plate, great for the state.